Hey guy, how are you all beautiful people are doing? Hope all of you are doing fine, and yes, this is the next season of creating Naruto comics in Naruto world. Akaban was graduated from the University of Arts and Design in the 21st century, then suddenly traversed into the Naruto's world. By bringing my knowledge of arts and my love of Naruto comic, I decided to recreate Naruto comic here. So let's start without any delay. The ability of the Limbo clone is almost exactly similar to that of the main body. Strictly speaking, they are not clones, but projections of different worlds, and they can also use all of Madara's abilities, including Susanoo, Shinra Tensei, etc. Last time Madara awakened, he couldn't control everything, only the most superficial use. And now, although Uzumaki Mito is very strong and the sealing technique is very abnormal, but in the end, she can't see Limbo clones, and even with the observation haki, she can barely identify the enemy's position. So she can only dodge in a short time as the Limbo clones attack while looking for an opportunity to seal one of them before making a plan. She was not worried about Akaban, because Akaban's strength is quite clear. He is already very strong, and he has even awakened the Rinnegan before, and his strength may have surpassed that of the first Hokage, Hashirama. Even if Madara used his Limbo clones, it is impossible to kill Akaban. She is more worried about Dewey. Although the child has superb taijutsu, his defensive ability is far worse, and he is the most likely to be killed among the three. Madara actually thought the same way, so he only sent a Limbo clone to fight Dewey. He thinks one is enough. After opening the 7 gates, it is impossible to use it for the second time in a short time. Even though Dewey is still in high-speed movement, according to the description of the characteristics of 8 inner gates in the comic, this person named Dewey will sooner or later will usher in a period of weakness. At that time, it will be the time when this Konoha taijutsu precious beast perishes. There is no wave in Madara's eyes. Dewey is undoubtedly a genius, but all the geniuses that stand in his way must be eradicated. Even Dewey or Kurama Akaban is no exception. It seems that I have to fight. Akaban sighed long, with a compassionate look, as if he didn't want war to come. The road to peace is never a thoroughfare. Madara didn't understand his nature and thought that Akaban really loved peace and didn't want to fight. His hands were flat, and his expression was slightly turbulent. But Akaban doesn't really care whether there is peace or not. The structure of the 5 great countries is not that easy to change. Even if this war is over and the Hidden Sand Village is weakened and Hanzo survives, the changes in the power structure of Hidden Rain Village and Hidden Sand Village will affect the entire ninja world. For Land of Wind, there is no difference between working with Hidden Sand Village or working with Hidden Rain Village. The state needs strength and stability, not a certain village. Therefore, Akaban just doesn't want to fight. He can't kill Madara with genjutsu alone. It will take a long time to tell the victory or defeat. That would be too tiring and exhausting. When he was thinking this way, a figure quickly cut into the battlefield. The tip of the man's hand was exposed to thunder, and a single finger was like a big gun, with an extremely sharp aura. It's the 3rd Raikage Hellstab. Child, this is not a battlefield you can participate in. For the sake of your respect for me, I grant you leave. Madara was expressionless. While turning around, with a wave of his weapon, the army arrangement in his hand, 3rd Raikage who approached him, was swept away by an invisible force with army arrangement. The momentum was really great. It looked like from a distance swapping the 3rd Raikage out of the battlefield like a fly. He came quickly and went quickly. Akaban watched the 3rd Raikage leave, and did not intend to stay. Indeed, as Madara said, the third Raikage who relied on his hell stab did not have the strength to compete with him. At that moment, Madara uses Shinra Tensei, Same Harder and his army arrangement in a swift manner. Use Same Harder to swallow lightning-style body protection, and use the army arrangements and Shinra Tensei to bounce the third Raikage attack, the Hell Stab. With just one blow, the third Raikage was seriously injured. This is Madara's strength. For Akaban, he would definitely not be able to use his moves so exquisitely, and he could only think of a solution from the genjutsu. There is no way. He specializes in the art industry. Although Akaban has more than 220 physical attributes, he is not an expert in taijutsu, and Madara was a genius ninja with all-around ability. Of course, if it's Akaban, the third Raikage will be killed in an instant. As long as he used his genjutsu, the strongest defense of the third Raikage was in vain. Genjutsu does not care what the strongest defense you have, especially the unique real genjutsu after the secret curse and the main Gekyu ability. For example, Madara now has been pulled into genjutsu again. However, unlike before, Akaban is now controlling the genjutsu. He pulled Madara into the genjutsu and quickly took out the drawing board and borrowed the painting as a medium to quickly guide and maintain the genjutsu. In his current state, he can actually use genjutsu without painting. But as in martial arts, there is no sword in the realm. In the realm of no sword is very powerful. It does not mean that you are not strong with a real sword. Real masters still need to use swords in the duel. Otherwise, you will regret it for a lifetime. The same is true of illusion. The Rinnegan, paintings, and Kurama genjutsu were fully fired, and behind Akaban, a huge golem stood up. Susanoo. Uchiha's Susanoo is almost an extension of the main Gekyo abilities, so their abilities and moves are also different. Such as Obito and Kakashi. Their Susanoo can use Kamui Shuriken. The formidable power is very powerful, while Uchiha Ataka's Susanoo has Totsuka no Tsurujai and 8-inch mirror. And the Susanoo of Akaban happens to have Totsuka no Tsurujai. Totsuka no Tsurujai is the sword of sealing, which can seal the enemy into the world of genjutsu, and Akaban's Sharingan and Rinnegan are connected to the world of genjutsu, which is exactly in line with his ability. In addition, Susanoo also strengthens the genjutsu control, so that everyone who sees it will automatically fall into the genjutsu. Of course, the genjutsu level will not be too high, but the win is free. If Akaban plus the guidance, the ability to cooperate with the genjutsu realization will be very strong. At this moment Akaban didn't use these abilities but directly used his big move to summon Madara's genjutsu clone. The power of the Rinnegan is strange. Akaban had only tried the rules of the illusion clone before and did not really test it. It is impossible to determine whether it can be used to achieve immediate death, but it is worth trying anyway, isn't it? While guiding the genjutsu, Akaban made Madara suffer from 1,000 swords through the heart. Madara has a strong ability to move and dodge in the face of 10,000 swords. With the Rinnegan and the Sharingan ability, he almost dodges all attacks and begins to crack the genjutsu. However, when he cracked the genjutsu, a sword stabbed him near his mouth. Fortunately, his Susanoo resisted it and did not cause much damage, but in reality, Susanoo appeared to be a broken corner. In an instant, the genjutsu clone of Madara that Akaban materialized drew the sword materialized by Akaban for him and went directly to stab his heart. The next second, the genjutsu clone disappeared. Puff. Madara vomited a mouthful of blood with an unbelievable expression on his face. Didn't I escape it? He looked at his heart, and there was a faint pain here as if it was hit with a sword. But just now, he remembered that he used Susanoo to resist the attack, and he was not really attacked. Even if it is an illusion that can be substantiated, it is necessary to speak the basic law. It is totally unreasonable. Could it be that? Madara looked in front of him, only to realize that there was a burly and fierce Susanoo. And the proudly standing golem releases its breathtaking power. Looking closely, this Susanoo was a bit like the death god of the Uzumaki clan. How can you use the perfect Susanoo? Madara is full of incredible colors. He thought Uchiha Yuan was a traitor, but he didn't expect it's not like that at all. The Sharingan obtained from other people cannot evolve, and Uchiha currently has no one that Mangekyo can open complete body of Susanoo. That means that it is Kurama Ikeban's own eyes. How is this possible? It is impossible for the Kurama clan to have a Sharingan. How can they have a Mangekyo, and it is such a high-end level? This incident was so shocking that Madara even forgot to attack the next step and froze there. Because he thought of a question. This kid has Mangekyo and Hashirama cells since he can use wood jutsu, so as long as the technique is appropriate, the fusion of Rinnegan is not a problem. This little demon has always been weird. Even Black Zetsu knows a lot of weird and peculiar secrets. He doesn't think Ikeban can't grasp the secret of the fusion of Mangekyo and Hashirama cells. Of course. Madara himself has little knowledge of these, and he is not a complete expert, so he guessed the situation instead. In fact, Ikeban didn't mean to conceal it. The information that should have been leaked has been revealed now, and there is no need for concealment anymore. Ikeban raised his pupil power to the limit, and the power of his eyes spread out. Genjutsu clone, Genjutsu actualization. Another Madara appeared, heading towards Madara against his Susanoo. This is your ability. It seems that I was injured just now. It should be related to it. Is there a Genjutsu body that has some connection with me? Madara chuckled softly. In the end, the Genjutsu body is only an illusion body. No matter how real it is, it cannot be compared with the entity. But the most disgusting thing about Ikeban's technique is that if the clone that was made of his Genjutsu was hit and injured, then you are also injured. So the best solution is sealing jutsu. The sealing technique will not harm the body, it will only seal him up. The other way is ignore it. Knowing that Ikeban had also awakened the Rinnegan, Madara quickly changed his strategy and stopped using the previous fighting method. On the other side, his Limbo clone chased Dewey all the way. Dewey is the best to kill. With Ikeban's style, he will definitely not ignore his teammates. Once he gets distracted, his ability to fight head-on will slow down. At that time, it is time to fight back. I know you want to deal with Dewey, that kid has muscle brain, but fortunately he has a cunning teacher. Ikeban didn't worry at all. In fact, Dewey was not alone. Ikeban released Dewey's Genjutsu clone. Once Dewey was injured, he would use the technique to transfer the damage to the Genjutsu clone body. At present, the Genjutsu clone body is only partially damaged, and it can be seen that there is no need to worry about his life. Orochimaru is a good teacher. Even with Might Dewey's brains, he can teach the snake style. After avoiding Madara clone's attack, Might Dewey recovered his strength again, and his internal injuries basically recovered. Then, Dewey is back again. Ikeban took advantage of this time to directly urge Susanoo to make a word with a weird sound and no real meaning. Following that, Madara found himself in Genjutsu again. Very annoying. It's not how powerful Akaban's genjutsu is, but that this kid has more genjutsu skills than him, and it takes a second for him to crack. 1 second, in reality, is enough to change too much. Madara is desperate. The gap is indeed as far apart as clouds and mud. When he breaks genjutsu and finds himself bound by heavy chains, Akaban's Susanoo was about to stab him with a sword. Madara recognized this sword. It is Totsuka no Tsurugi. Once stabbed, it will be sealed into the genjutsu world by its infinite power. From his own Rinnegan guess, Akaban's Rinnegan is undoubtedly the peak in genjutsu's eyes. Although there is no Kotomatsu Kami, it is the ultimate genjutsu in the other direction. Such a pair of eyes is bound to connect to the world of genjutsu. With Akaban's genjutsu's skills, if someone is stabbed by Totsuka no Tsurugi, they will basically die. Thinking of this, Madara's scalp was numb with shock. This little demon is silent and has hidden these methods, and according to Sharingan's ability, Akaban has already mastered Sharingan's power before, but he has been suppressing his desire to win. Only now have he exposed his full strength. This kind of person is too terrifying. Madara didn't dare to use Susanoo to resist the Totsuka no Tsurugi, and directly exchanged positions with his Limbo clone to avoid the key blow. Other people can't see the Limbo clones, but Akaban has Rinnegan, which is not included in the list. After the sword hit, the clone was sealed to the boundless genjutsu world. There, Akaban perceives Madara's position and then turns the illusion into reality, and he uses Flying Thunder Godjutsu in one go. On the other side, Dewey reacted extremely quickly, and the fire was fully on when Madara arrived. Moving closer, and the ultimate move will come out. At this time, Shinra Tensei. Madara immediately used his abilities and bounced Dewey away. Dai Taijutsu is very strong, and this type of taijutsu is difficult to absorb and solve with ninjutsu. But Madara still has wood jutsu. Wood release, advent of a world of flowering trees. It is more terrifying than the ordinary advent of a world of flowering trees because it can not only generate huge and powerful trees but also grow a flower that can emit pollen, which has a strong paralyzing and coma effect. Even Madara almost fainted even after taking a few puffs in his prime, but the 5 Kages couldn't hold in the split second. Of course, this trick cannot be prepared for Dewey alone, but also for Kurama Akaban, who arrived at his side supported by Flying Thunder Godjutsu. DIY didn't know the seriousness of the matter. He didn't recognize this trick, because Dewey was always training and didn't have time to pay attention to the plot of the comics. Naturally, he didn't know how powerful this attack was. A huge tree grew in an instant. Dewey took a breath during the attack, and instantly he knew something was wrong, because he felt drunk now, as if the world was turned upside down. Akaban approached him, and seeing that there was something wrong, he immediately used his ability to take Dewey away from this place. Madara immediately accepted ninjutsu. He did not use fire style these ninjutsu, inviting humiliation to oneself. For Rinnegan, any ordinary escape technique is meaningless. Akaban's Rinnegan are too troublesome, regardless of the genjutsu clone or the kind of Susanoo who makes people fall into genjutsu. Madara is overwhelmed. Madara could easily crack it before because Akaban didn't use Rinnegan. Secondly, Akaban's mental power was similar to him. Now Akaban shows his card. Madara is completely unable to resist at that level of genjutsu. What was even more shocking was that he found that his Limbo clone was missing by 1, not a reduction in the usual sense, but temporarily unable to summon. It must be Totsuka no Tsurugi. How can Kurama Akaban have a Mangekyo, and it still has that kind of pupil power. Madara finds it ridiculous. Being able to use the full version of Susanoo is enough to prove that Kurama Ikeban's eye pupil power is of eternal Mangekyo level, and his eyes, like his own, have been raised step by step from the Sharingan. But how is this possible? Ikeban is not from Uchiha at all, and he does not have any brothers or sisters who might awaken the Mangekyo for him to extract their pupil power. It makes no sense. He didn't have much time to think. Ikeban's genjutsu technique was repeated one after another, sometimes full of lethality, sometimes only harassing genjutsu, but the harassment genjutsu was very disgusting. There was only one picture and one sentence. Want to know the secret of Black Zetsu? Go find it, it's all in the comics. If you want to talk about it, just say, what does it mean? Madara wanted to lift the table, but after one round he found that he did not have the ability to lift the table, so he could only fight back and wait for the opportunity. Madara, in fact, the secret of Black Zetsu is very simple, he belongs to the ten-tailed. Ikeban smiled at this point and stopped talking. Next, Madara finds himself in the genjutsu again. Madara calmed down and put Ikeban's speech disturbance behind him. Comics, Black Zetsu's secrets, etc., wait until I survive. This is the biggest crisis he encountered after the death of Senju Hashirama. Kurama Ikeban is too insidious and too tolerant. It's not enough to have Rinnegan and Uzumaki Maito's help. This kid has also cultivated a master of taijutsu that is enough to threaten him. The three have their own weaknesses except for Ikeban, but it is more difficult to solve them together. On the side of Uzumaki Maito, a limbo clone has been sealed. Indecisiveness leads to disaster. Madara knew that he couldn't beat the game, and he had already retired, but he knew that Ikeban had Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and he couldn't run before the Kurama Ikeban was solved. I can only fight. Since he can't compete in genjutsu, use taijutsu. Let's break his Susanoo first. Although Susanoo can be used again after a period of time, he can get a period of advantage after breaking it. In terms of taijutsu skills, Madara believes that he is better than Kurama Ikeban. He condensed a black rod, and then instantly disappeared in place. Madara's physical skills are very strong, and his speed is almost elusive to the naked eye, but under the eyes of Rinnegan, his speed is not worth mentioning, and adding the observation haki, almost all the things that Madara will do in the future are in sight. Close combat. It's a good idea. Use the black rod power to restrain me and Dewey, but Madara-san, I can do that too, and... Ikeban smiled. The next second, Madara's genjutsu illusion body appeared. The genjutsu body is very brave, and also carries a black rod, rushing up to fight against Madara. Of course, it cannot really condense the black rod, this black rod is Ikeban. But the effect is the same. Boom! In an instant fight, Madara felt that his hand had received twice the impact, and almost missed his weapon. No solution anymore. Madara retreated and exchanged positions with the Limbo clone. He wanted to leave to catch all the tail beasts and get the chakra of the other tailed beast. Uzumaki Maito was here, which meant that there was no one to look after the other tailed beasts. In this way, he can draw his salary from the bottom of the tank, catch the remaining tail beasts, and then cooperate with part of the 9-tailed chakra to awaken a part of the 10-tailed ability. With his current strength, he is not the opponent of this group at all. No, even Kurama Ikeban, himself. As soon as he exchanged positions, he saw Uzumaki Maito in her Kyuubi mode, standing in front of him. In addition to the replaced clones, the fourth Limbo clones were also sealed. Fortunately, these 2 clones can be restored after a period of time. As long as this period of time passes, they can be summoned again. But the other 2 won't work. Damn Totsuka no Tsurugi, that is obviously my Uchiha thing. I hate it. If it weren't for this Totsuka no Tsurugi, he wouldn't need to worry about it. Of course, this was also because Akaban's strength was comparable to him. If Akaban's strength was weaker, he did not need to worry about the Totsuka no Tsurugi. Unfortunately, that kid is really a monster. Madara came over, trying to forcibly absorb the 9-tailed chakra of Uzumaki Maito, but Uzumaki Maito reacted very quickly, flashing by in the blink of an eye, and at the same time, her feet slammed hard. Boom! The kick was hardly lost to Dewey's 7-gate strike, but without Akaban, Madara's Susanoo could resist or even counterattack. After a wave of shockwaves, Madara found something was wrong. Uzumaki Maito's power is too strong. No, not just power. This kind of vitality, physical state. How is it possible? Your body could not bear a lot of chakra use last time, but this time it has recovered. Madara was shocked. He knows that this is not the effect of the so-called strength of 100 technique, but Uzumaki Maito has really become younger. You're still alive, so how can I grow old and leave Konoha? Dozens of adamantine sealing chains are scattered on Uzumaki Maito, each attached to her and Nine-Tails fusion chakra. Far away it looks scarier than the real Nine-Tails. Madara knows the power of adamantine sealing chains. If he really gets caught, it wouldn't take long for Akaban to arrive at his side, which will be the end for him. So I shouldn't be captured. Madara backed away quickly, and the Susanoo on himself and his body quickly made a hand seal. In the next second, a huge meteorite fell from the sky. The sky is shaking. Uzumaki Maito has never seen this technique, but she knows how to deal with it no matter how much it changes. It can't change the nature of it being a Chibaku Tensei. She kicked her feet into the sky. Then Chakra, the tail beast on her body, condensed into a huge hand, with a crazy spinning sphere on the palm of the hand. Tail beast bomb. With one blow, the meteorite collapsed. Madara quickly flew to this hand and absorbed it with his absorption capacity. No matter how small a mosquito is, it still has a lump of meat, and this chakra can play an important role. At this time, Akaban had arrived. Madara didn't hesitate and threw a black ball directly. Chibaku Tensei. His Chibaku Tensei is more powerful than pain, and its suction is extremely powerful, including everything around him got suck. But although it is extremely powerful and possesses a not weak sealing ability, it is useless on Akaban with his Rinnegan. But Madara stalled for at least a few seconds. Taking this opportunity, Madara quickly left the battlefield. But Akaban casts a summoning jutsu and directly summon the demonic statue of the outer path with Uzumaki Maito and the Kyuubi. He doesn't need to consume too much of his own chakra. Seeing it, Madara wanted to curse. When he wanted to run, this kid kidnapped the demonic statue of the outer path from the outside world, and the method was really damaging to the extreme. Akaban and Uzumaki Maito both have extremely high attainments in sealing techniques, and the demonic statue of the outer path is basically what's gone can never come back. Kurama Akaban, you are indeed a terrible character. Madara turned around blankly. Although the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki and Infinite Tsukuyomi seem to be huge pits, they are the goals of his half-life of hard work after all. It is a bit difficult for him to give up all at once. What can I do without giving up? Madara, give it up, your idea won't work. Uzumaki Maito sighed softly. Akaban looked at him squarely, and his pair of Rinnegan was very eye-catching. The function of these eyes, combined with Susanoo, Flying Thunder God Jutsu and Genjutsu, is really annoying. Killing him is not easy. Akaban's Genjutsu can transform injuries. Madara is not sure whether this is the ability of his Sharingan or Rinnegan, but it can be imagined that Akaban's transformability ability is stronger than others. Even if this technique is not Izanagi, it is not far away, and it is almost impossible to kill him before his chakra runs out. But exhausting a chakra with a sage body, how to hear it is no different from dreaming. The consumption level of this kind of genjutsu may not be able to keep up with Akaban's own recovery speed. Madara couldn't think of a second way for a while. He turned around, looked at Akaban and Uzumaki Maito, and then suddenly sighed with exhaustion. If he escapes, Uzumaki Maito will seal the demonic statue of the outer path and he will completely lose the opportunity to realize his ideals. Ideal or reality? A difficult question to choose. Madara stopped for a long time, and then simply sat down and asked, "You can control the demonic statue of the outer path, and I will lose if I go, then." Akaban, I want to know, what is Black Zetsu? Black Zetsu? Uzumaki Maito was slightly startled. Black Zetsu was indeed a strange creature. She couldn't even perceive the existence of Black Zetsu before she mastered the observation haki. What is its essence? This kind of thing is indeed worthy of curiosity, and Uzumaki Maito also looked at Akaban. Akaban pondered for a moment, and said, "The essence of Black Zetsu, he is actually the creation of yin-yang style, but his origin is very special and different from ordinary yin-yang style. From 10 Tails." After thinking about it carefully, he understood Akaban's previous reminder that Mother refers to the person who made it, and the 10 Tails is the person who made Black Zetsu, and the 10 Tails ability. Made of yin and yang, then he is almost immortal. Yes, I don't know if Black Zetsu has told you that the 10 Tail is actually a divine tree in ancient times. It produces a chakra fruit, and you can gain powerful power by taking this fruit. Akaban said lightly. Madara nodded slightly. Could it be that? Uzumaki Maito was stunned for a moment. Could it be that 10 Tails is the divine tree? The 10 Tails is the divine tree, but it is not just the divine tree, it is also the number 1 person who served the fruit of chakra, the goddess Kaguya, from Otsutsuki clan. After Akaban finished speaking, he used genjutsu again. Speaking is too time-consuming, it is not as simple and straightforward as an illusion. Madara did not resist. When he chose to stay, he had already given up. He could not run at all when he chose to stay. The current idea is to know all the secrets and verify that what he did is correct. Akaban's idea is also very simple. He simply copied the previous life from Obito to the anime plot after Sage of Six Paths. Of course, he deleted a lot of unnecessary memories in anime, only the comic mentioned some important parts. Entering the illusion, Madara finds himself with a peculiar perspective. Uchiha Madara. This is Madara in the comics. His lines at the moment are just in touch with the comics he has read before. Is this the follow-up plot? Madara thought secretly. On the screen, Obito has become Sage of Six Paths. According to the original plan, Madara wanted to control Obito to use the wheel revolving heaven to resurrect him from the state of impure world reincarnation. Once this is done, Madara can not only be resurrected but also be restored to his peak star in one fell swoop. This is undoubtedly the best solution if you let the Madara in reality think about it. But Obito has his own ideas. He wants to control infinite Tsukuyomi by himself to achieve world peace, instead of leaving the choice to Madara. Uchiha people. Madara sighed inwardly. Uchiha, the stronger they are, the more intense their love, even to the point of paranoia. Not only did Senju Hashirama realize this, but Madara himself also deeply understood this truth. So he understood the feelings and thoughts of Obito, and expressed support from a neutral perspective. No one must live for the rest. Of course. Madara's main purpose is not these but wants to know the secret of Black Zetsu. So he was very puzzled, why did Kurama Ikeban show him this kind of picture? Is it possible to simply let him read the comic? Somewhat strange. Madara observes everything from Madara's perspective, while secretly thinking. It didn't take long for him to discover that Obito had rebelled, and Black Zetsu perfectly executed his previous plan, resurrecting him with revolving heaven. Everything seemed to be no problem. If he didn't know that Black Zetsu harbor ulterior motives, he really thinks that Black Zetsu is out and out loyal to him. Where is the problem? He did not understand. As an offbeat bystander, Madara can't change anything. He can only watch the plot trend quietly, without affecting anything. Besides, this is just a genjutsu. Intervening in the illusion. Is it necessary? Madara was resurrected, his combat power was at his peak, or even stronger, and this kind of real feeling once made him feel that he was rejuvenated and no longer aging after experiencing an illusion. Later, his Rinnegan returned, the 10 tails were sealed and entered the state of the Sage of Six Path. Madara even used Rinnegan and 10 tails to successfully use infinite Tsukuyomi. This is the goal of Madara for a lifetime, and it is for it to live up to now. The infinite Tsukuyomi succeeded. The plot goes according to Madara's thoughts, everyone is sealed and enters the genjutsu. From then on, human beings will live in the illusion without contending with the world. There will be no more fighting, no turmoil, no more war. However, Naruto, Sasuke and other protagonists are not drawn into the illusion but are protected by Susanoo. This is not an ordinary Susanoo, but also carries the power of the Six Path, which can resist the erosion of infinite Tsukuyomi. There will be variables. In Madara's mind, it would be too simple if it was just a simple infinite Tsukuyomi, and then playing with Naruto and Sasuke. Although these two are very strong, to be honest, Madara doesn't look into it. But there was a sting. On his chest, a black hand penetrated him, and when he turned his head, Madara saw a black shadow. It's Black Zetsu. Is Black Zetsu going to kill me? Madara was stunned for a moment and then felt the riot in his body. At this moment, he understood that what Black Zetsu needed was not to kill Madara but to suppress his consciousness and awaken the will of 10 tails. So he can completely revive the 10 tails. This is the secret of Black Zetsu. So it's going to end like this. Madara muttered to himself, everything before and after was completely connected. Black Zetsu's goal was indeed like this, that's why he panicked and lost his mind at that moment. It all makes sense. In the next second, the scene changes. He no longer possesses Madara, but observes it from the perspective of God, while Madara in front of him changes drastically and slowly transforms into a woman. At this point, the animation is over. Madara froze for a moment and looked up to see Ikeban and Uzumaki Mito standing there, with blood on the corners of Uzumaki Mito's mouth. What's the situation? While he was puzzled, he realized that his body was weaker, as if his lifespan had been absorbed. His own vitality was sucked away. Madara understands in his heart. But he doesn't care anymore. For people with faith, ideals are higher than life. Infinite Tsukuyomi is a huge pit. This is what Kurama Ikaban's illusion is meant to express, and Madara himself understands that it is true. This is his previous judgment based on Black Zetsu's various reactions, not because of how credulous Ikaban's illusion is. After his strength weakened further, Madara did not have the strength to compete with Ikaban and Uzumaki Maito. The most important thing was that his fighting spirit disappeared. Resist. No need, it would be futile to continue the fight. He was silent for a long time, and then sighed for a long time. You little devil is really nasty, don't you want to let me know the ending before my death? The ending is nothing good, it's nothing more than Kaguya's resurrection and then being sealed again. Ikaban shrugged. Madara's remaining points can't be earned, and it's okay to simply spoil him. Ah! Madara chuckled softly. The goddess Kaguya couldn't handle the two brats. Maybe ordinary people thought it was ridiculous, but Madara didn't think it at all. Fighting never depends on data or paper strength, but also on combat experience. An old monster that has been sealed for more than 1,000 years, a quick product that relies on the chakra fruit to obtain a powerful force, how can his understanding in battle be stronger than those who got their own strength step by step? It's really nothing good. Uchiha Madara, is the end of everything. In the argument with Senju Hashirama, I didn't lose, but I didn't win either. Madara has given up the infinite Tsukuyomi plan in his heart. But if he is going to die, he would have to fight happily before he dies. It would not be Uchiha Madara to easily admit defeat. His aura is strong again. Come on, see if you ended my era, or I killed you and then slaughtered all the ninjas. Madara's eyes condensed. The war cannot be resolved, but without a ninja, at least fewer casualties will be lost. He used to think so, but now Madara just wants to fight happily and find the feeling of the end of the year. Although lost in that battle, there is an endless aftertaste. It must be you who lose. Ikaban sneered softly, released the meatball, its white zetsu, from the sealing scroll, and then sealed with both hands. Impure world reincarnation. In the next second, the flesh ball began to change, and gradually emerged the shape of the Senju Hashirama. After a second or two, Senju Hashirama opened his eyes, frowned slightly, then opened his eyes wide and shouted, Madara! Hashirama! Madara's fighting spirit rose instantly, and his whole body was excited. Senju Hashirama! An old friend, an old opponent. Kurama Ikaban is a kid who understands him well, knows his long-cherished wish. But then, he regretted that he secretly praised Ikaban. My dear Lord First Hokage, I am the boyfriend of your granddaughter Tsunade. My name is Kurama Ikaban. Now Madara wants to exterminate all ninjas and bring the world back to the era without ninjas. There is no need to speak morality with this kind of enemy. Let's go together. Kill him. Ikaban immediately interjected lest Senju Hashirama and Madara start their one-on-one battle. What? Senju Hashirama was surprised, his eyes changed in an instant. Madara, you really want to do this, but I will never allow it. On the side, Uzumaki Maito sighed. She didn't know why, but she became exhausted after seeing these scenes. Hashirama, are you capable of stopping me? Madara burst into laughter. His pair of eyes are Rinnegan, no matter how strong the wood-style sage art is, The only things he fears are Ikeban's Rinnegan and Genjutsu, and Uzumaki Maito's sealing technique. Madara, even if that's the case, I will stop you. Hashirama was very angry and instantly entered Sage mode. Then, bang tilde. With a loud noise, Hashirama quickly went to Madara. Grandma, are you not going to fight? Ikeban asked in a low voice. I'm used to it. Uzumaki Maito sighed heavily. The first time this kind of thing happened she was unaccustomed to it, but the second, third, or even countless times, she is now completely used to it. After all, she is in the same generation as the two. After she pondered for a moment, she continued, Ikeban, since Madara has reached this point, it means that he has given up the plan of infinite Tsukuyomi. Let them have a hearty fight. If both experts fight, the land will collapse and the mountains will be destroyed. Isn't the Valley of the End just like that? Anyway, here is the Land of the Wind, and Senju Hashirama has been revived using the impure world reincarnation. Just let them fight a good fight, and it can be regarded as the final wish of Madara. I have to say that the person who understands them the most is undoubtedly Uzumaki Maito. Ikeban's personality is not bright, and he can't understand the radiant friendship between Hashirama and Madara, but at this time, summoning the first Hokage is actually for them to play the last game. Of course. He thought for a while, but he was also happy to see it. The purpose has nothing to do with accomplishment, but he is a little tired from playing, so he can just take a break and watch the show. If Senju Hashirama didn't use the Sage Art, his strength would be equal to Madara's strength, but now Madara has the power of Rinnegan. It's completely different. If he uses the various powers of the Rinnegan, the Senju Hashirama is definitely not Madara's opponent. However, Madara didn't use the power of the Rinnegan, just a normal fight between Hashirama. He seemed to prefer this kind of process. One of them used the wood style and the other used the Susanoo, almost fist to the flesh. Ikeban watched, secretly wary in his heart. In case Madara absorbed the celestial chakra of the Senju Hashirama, it would not be as easy to deal with him as it is now. It is not Ikeban's style to throw the decision right to others. Ikeban left the mark of the flying thunder god in Hashirama's body ahead of time. Once Madara wanted to absorb the Sage Chakra, he would instantly stop him with the flying thunder god jutsu, and there would be no need to talk about the morals of the world. It depends on whether Madara is conscious. The demonic statue of the outer path behind him stands quietly in a weird posture. The chakra inside it is surging. It belongs to One Tail and Six Tails chakra. One Tail is sealed into the demonic statue of the outer path. It means one thing. The Kazekage of the Sand Village is dead again. The poor third Kazekage of the Sand, although the comics said that he died terribly, but somehow he still experienced and became a legend and one of the strongest Kazekage left in the Second Shinobi World War. But this time his ending was quite pitiful, and basically, nothing could be done. When he first came to power, his power was controlled by Kyo and Ibizo. After finally gaining some power, Madara came, and controlled him with genjutsu and imprisonment arts. There was no opportunity for him to express himself. Ikeban observed a moment of silence for him. Of course. It only took a second, and then he forgot about it. After all, there is only one-side relationship with Zack, and there is not much contact, so the feeling in his heart will naturally be much less. At this moment, the Alliance forces have eliminated most of the White Zetsu. Many people who know superficial medical ninjutsu began to cooperate with the wounded, while the rest of the ninjas who did not know the medical ninjutsu were all aware of the movement and surrounded them. This is a shocking battle, and ordinary people cannot intervene at all. The third Raikage is strong, right? Previously rushed to Madara, but he was blasted out by Madara with his fan. The most frightening thing was that his heaviest injury came from the third Raikage's most proud finger attack. Medical nin such as Utatane Koharu and Tsunade joined forces to rescue him. The fighting between the two sides was very fierce, and they both displayed extremely high combat effectiveness. Attack after attack caused all the onlookers to retreat. When everyone witnessed this scene, they suddenly felt a little absurd. Isn't this the end of the valley in the comic, after the resurrection of Senju Hashirama? Almost exactly the same. The difference is that it is now in the land of wind. Boom! The wooden dragon flew, and the powerful force destroyed a mountain. However, Madara manipulated his Susanoo and cut the wooden dragon with a single sword. After he awakened the Rinnegan, his Susanoo became stronger not only in defense but also in attack. He doesn't use his Rinnegan, and Hashirama also didn't use that move to top the Buddha, and the strength of the two is basically at 50-50. Hashirama, use that move. Okay, take this move. Hashirama yelled at Madara, and then folded his hands together, and the Senjutsu chakra rushed out of his body, and a huge wooden statue suddenly rose behind him. Thousand-handed wooden statue was huge and deterring, it looked as shocking as a Buddha. Sage art would release, true several thousand hands. Back then, Madara was defeated by this set of iron fists. If it were not for Izanagi, he would really die, and now he does not intend to use Izanagi. It's useless. Not far away, there was a person who was enough to kill him, and a woman who was enough to seal him. Even if he used Izanagi to divert the damage, he couldn't change the overall situation. Besides, if Madara really wants to use his own scheme, it's not enough to dry up the Sage Chakra of Hashirama like in the comic in the fantasy world, so why let Senju Hashirama attack him with this attack? Boom! In one blow, the dust filled the sky, as if everything had been destroyed. Too strong. This is the ninjutsu that defeated Uchiha Madara back then. Akaban and Uzumaki Maito fell silent at the same time. Their perception is much stronger than that of ordinary ninjas, so they can sense the loss of vitality, especially Uzumaki Maito. She just drank Madara's blood and got part of his lifespan. Cough 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 tilde. The smoke and dust dissipated, and Madara kept coughing up blood. Susanoo had been beaten and collapsed and couldn't condense in a short time. He didn't use his Rinnegan in the end. Madara, you. Hashirama is very puzzled, why doesn't Madara use his eyes? Perhaps I should have died in the Valley of the End that year, Infinite Tsukuyomi. Oh, it's a shame that I was almost deceived for a lifetime by Black Zetsu. Uchiha Madara looked up at the sky. It was a moon floating far away in the sky, and that was where the goddess seal was originally located. Hashirama was silent. He still doesn't know what happened, only knowing that he was summoned out. Somehow Madara is not dead, and then Madara makes the call again somehow. What happened? Who is Black Zetsu? Hashirama, do you want to come alive completely? Madara's vitality is very strong. He stared at Hashirama and said such a word abruptly. Why do you ask? Hashirama felt it was strange. Not to mention how to rename it, the question of Madara alone. My ideal has failed. I want to know if your ideal can be realized. If you get eternal life, the world will remain peaceful forever. Madara was severely injured but in high spirits. This is what he just thought of. If Hashirama is alive, the 5 major villages dare not do anything, so why not let Hashirama be alive? There was no chance before, but now it happens to have this condition. Thinking of this, Madara couldn't help but glance at Uzumaki Maito. She must have absorbed his life just now. If that ability is given to Hashirama will be immortal. The god of ninja is immortal, who dares to have a bad thought? When a group of people from the 5 major villages heard this, their hearts almost burst out, giving Senju Hashirama an eternal life. The rest of the villages had to die, and they simply surrendered Konoha. Listening to what Madara was saying, Hashirama was slightly startled, and was about to say something, when he saw Madara's hands were knotted. Without waiting for his reply, Madara used the forbidden ninjutsu. Outer Path, Samsara of Heavenly Life technique. In the next second, a great power gushes from Madara and flows into Senju Hashirama within the body of impure world reincarnation, and then Senju Hashirama's body gradually comes alive. Samsara of Heavenly Life technique was used, the technique of resurrection. Kyo's eyes were green, and she could not wait to rush to snatch Madara's Rinnegan when she saw it, but when she saw Senju Hashirama on the side, she swallowed her saliva and didn't dare to do it. The man who just died was his friend. Anyone who tarnished his friend in front of him will definitely face a bad luck. Forget it, anyway, using reincarnation is also death, and reincarnation is also death, there is no difference. Kyo comforted herself. Am I alive? Senju Hashirama looked at his hand in disbelief, wondering what's wrong again. Is this the power of Rinnegan? Next, he saw Madara gouging out his eyes, handing them to Ikeban's hand, and then looking towards Ikeban. He could no longer see, he just judged Ikeban's position by memory and said, "Beware of Black Zetsu, be careful, kid." Madara leaned over, said in a low voice, then gradually closed his eyes. Senju Hashirama didn't understand Madara's meaning, and although his voice was low, he could hear Ikeban and Uzumaki Maito as well. They were equally daunting. It is true that a person will die and his words are good. What do you mean by Uchiha Madara? Uzumaki Maito thought about it, then smiled. She roughly understood the reason. Before Madara died, perhaps he wanted to understand everything. Judging from his perspective, Ikeban was undoubtedly a deeply hidden conspirator, and a character like Black Zetsu should really be careful about Ikeban. But Uzumaki Maito knew very well that Ikeban's nature was a slacker and a lazy kid, so with an ambition like dominating the world, she knew Ikeban wouldn't bother about it. Don't say about world domination, even becoming a Hokage, the kid is not willing. He belongs to a person who is too lazy to even point fingers at others, but Ikeban's impression in Madara's heart is really strange. Madara is dead. Died in the hands of his most valued friend Senju Hashirama. Seeing this scene, the ninjas who knew the inside story were somewhat tranced. In the past, Madara had died under this powerful attack, but because of Izanagi, he returned from hell, but this time Madara couldn't do it. He even pulled his eyes off and gave it to Senju Hashirama. And it is possible for Senju Hashirama to awaken a powerful Rinnegan at any time if he wants to. However, looking at the bloody eyes in his hands, he felt extremely complicated. Peace. He remembered that when he was a child, he and Madara made the wish and oath to quell the war together with Madara on the banks of the Neckar River. Although he later achieved peace in his eyes, Madara was not satisfied. Be content with the status quo, or rule the world. At the end of the disagreement, he still parted ways, but now what is the failure in Madara's mouth? Hashirama was puzzled. Black Zetsu. Ikeban expands his perception with the devil fruit of the thunder, so he can sense the presence of Black Zetsu in a place where Uzumaki Maito can't even notice. But he didn't do it right away. Black Zetsu is very special. If you want to deal with him, he must use the sealing technique the first time. At this point, even the Totsuka no Tsurugi may not be effective. Black Zetsu has no accurate ki or entity at all, and he can die at any time just to survive. Grandma Maito, help the first Hokage-sama adapt to Rinnegan. Akaban said in a low voice, and then made a signal with his finger. This means that Black Zetsu is nearby. The safest way he thought of was to use Senju Hashirama and Rinnegan to activate the six-path Chibaku Tensei. Six paths, Chibaku Tensei needs two people who understand the power of yin and yang to jointly launch. Although it takes a short time for Senju Hashirama to adapt to the power, it is only to deal with Black Zetsu who has no fighting ability. So it does not need the ultimate Chibaku Tensei. As long as the six-path version of the Chibaku Tensei can be realized, it is enough to seal Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu never knew he was discovered. He is now very heartbroken in his eyes and is very depressed. Asura and Indra are constantly entangled in reincarnation, but there is a very important premise here: a new reincarnation will only begin when both of their reincarnations die. This is what he summed up for thousands of years. Now Madara has finally died, and as a result, he has resurrected the mature version of Senju Hashirama. The hateful Madara even cheated him before he died. Black Zetsu was even more fucked up than Akaban. Akaban was only misunderstood by Madara, but Uzumaki Maito would definitely explain to him, and besides, he was still Tsunade's future husband, so Senju Hashirama wouldn't touch him. But Black Zetsu is different. With evil monsters, why do you need to talk about justice? Hashirama, the details will be fully understood when you go back, but now we still pay attention to the current situation, and there is one thing that has not been resolved. Uzumaki Maito approached and said in a low voice. Hashirama turned his head, then touched his head and smiled and said, "It's Maito, I didn't expect you to." "Well, I didn't pay attention before, I'm sorry." Uzumaki Maito is such a miserable wife. It has been so long since he was summoned, but she has only found out now, and Lord Firstkage, you have a way to finish the first half of the sentence. Every older ninja from Konoha who saw it complained in their belly. It is not the first time everyone has seen the character of the first Hokage. Although he is a bit funny in daily life, he is quite reliable when fighting. These small shortcomings can only be tolerated. Of course. For ninjas who have never seen the first Hokage, this scene has really subverted their image of the god of ninjas. Uzumaki Maito can't help but start immediately, sealing his IQ points, gouging his eyes and replacing them, in one go in a second, and then operate her medical ninjutsu, and soon Senju Hashirama's eyes have been replaced. In fact, there is no need for medical ninjutsu at all. Senju Hashirama can heal without seal by itself, basically plug and play. First Hokage-sama, please gather the power of the six paths of yang and cooperate with me to gather the power of yin. Later, I will take you to Black Zetsu position. Please use Chibaku Tensei together. Akaban reminded him inside the genjutsu, so as not to be discovered by Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu. Senju Hashirama hesitated for a moment. Madara said not only to be careful about Black Zetsu but also to be careful of the little guy next to him. Is this kid really trustworthy? But he only hesitated for a second, and soon made a decision. Both Tsunade and Uzumaki Maito recognized this young man. He shouldn't be a bad person, and if that's the case, he would also acknowledge it. So he nodded. Black Zetsu found something wrong. As soon as Akaban made this kind of action, he often had some crooked thoughts. Although he thought he was far enough away and would normally not be found, he was still prepared to retreat out of insurance. But at this moment, around him, there was a lake for no apparent reason. This was a huge water prison technique. No, it's not right. This is genjutsu. Black Zetsu was horrified, and quickly began to crack the genjutsu, but when he cracked the genjutsu, he was still in a lake. Double genjutsu. Don't tell me, it's a materialization of genjutsu. Black Zetsu was surprised for a while and quickly rushed out of the water prison ball, but at this time two figures appeared beside him. They are Kurama Akaban and Senju Hashirama. I was discovered. Black Zetsu's heart shook, already feeling bad. Two pairs of Rinnegan, one is Senju Hashirama of Asura Chakra reincarnation, and the other is not Uchiha Madara, but awakening Rinnegan must have mastered the power of yin-yang, especially Kurama Akaban's genjutsu is very powerful and may be able to make out of that level of power of yin. So this technique is the 6 paths, Chibaku Tensei that once sealed Mother. Black Zetsu was terrified. If he was sealed by this technique, even if he can run again, it is impossible to get rid of the bondage. At this moment, he has been close by 2 people. All his abilities are lost in an instant. This is the pinnacle of sealing jutsu, and the final result will make him sealed in the moon and cannot escape forever. If I get sealed, what will my mother do? Black Zetsu was flustered and desperate. However, all this has been useless until now. From the start of the technique, he is doomed to be unable to break free. The roaring sound, the rising stone ball. What is that? Everyone backed away crazy. Kyo was secretly happy before the sand here was affected by Madara and Hashirama's wood style, and large-scale vegetation has appeared. With a little care, this side can become fertile soil in the future. But now, everything is gone again. Her joy leaves faster than it comes. Ascended to heaven. Is that Black Zetsu? Don't tell me it's Chibaku Tensei from the comic. Perhaps, but it seems to be different from ordinary Chibaku Tensei. A group of ninja who have read the comics speculated. The few who knew the inside story looked up and stared intently. Will it become the second moon? The sphere that was rising step by step was difficult to observe with eyes later, but after rising to a high enough height, it finally stopped. At this position, it was no longer possible to observe and perceive it by ordinary means. It rose to space. Of course. Since Akaban and Hashirama yin and yang power are not as good as that of the Sage of 6 Path nor Otsutsuki Hamura, and the creation of the first moon absorbed many meteorites around, this moon is much smaller in scale, and at most it looks like the Earth. It's the size of a star. According to Akaban, it is more like an artificial satellite. Black Zetsu is sealed, and there is no one in the world who will cause trouble to him. He is completely at ease, no matter what happens in the future. With his own strength, he finally does not need to be afraid of others threatening him. However, how to deal with the demonic statue of the outer path is a difficult problem. There are 1 tails and 6 tails inside it. These 2-tailed beasts are not owned by Konoha. If you consider peace, it should be returned to the rest of the village. But Akaban has some ideas of his own. He has 9 types of chakras, which can temporarily activate the 10 tails, or partially activate only part of their functions. In this way, another function can be derived. Server terminal. The 10 tails, which are partially activated with the dream of the Dream to Per family, are used as the Internet server terminal, and the mental power individual illusion is used as the local area network to achieve an alternative network effect. Of course, without the tail beast, its effect is destined to be greatly reduced, covering at most parts of Konoha and Fire Country. But I can study it carefully. Akaban thought to himself. A comfortable life is coming soon. What can I do without the internet? Besides, the demonic statue of the outer path belongs to Konoha. It has to be used in a way. Isn't this a good idea? There is no need to worry about the Dream to Per family. They feed on spiritual energy, and every user of Dreamland Network can provide spiritual energy. They will never object. Hello everyone, I am Senju Hashirama. Although I don't know what happened, it looks like the war is over. Hashirama began to talk. In fact, according to common sense, Akaban is the biggest hero of this battle. He should stand in Senju Hashirama position and accept everyone's attention and worship, but he is not a person of this character. Rather than being a hero, he prefers to stay behind the scenes while shooting black guns. Heroes and so on are fools. Aren't you going up? No, I want to go home and sleep, and I have some immature ideas about the demonic statue of the outer path. Use it to benefit the ninja world. Akaban blows the atmosphere casually. Whatever benefits the ninja world, his main purpose of making the internet is online games, and it will be good if it does not harm the next generation in the future. But those are not his own considerations. He has done the same thing to save the world, and people have to do something for themselves for the rest of their lives. It has to be said that from some angles, Akaban's danger is no less than Madara. The internet. Good for good, but it is also Pandora's box. Once opened, the changes caused by it are not comparable to comics, and it will involve changes in many aspects. However, it is not so easy to use the 10 tails, and it will take some time to research. The key now is to rebuild after the war. The resurrection of Senju Hashirama exceeded everyone's expectations, especially Hanzo the Salamander. Originally, according to Hanzo's idea, after they defeat Madara, he will lead the Hidden Rain village to overthrow the location of the Sand village. After getting the support of Land of Wind, it became the new 5 great ninja villages. Then combine with small ninja village to form a powerful wave of influence. He has the epithet demigod and has a lot of appeal in small ninja village. However, now, the god of ninja is alive. God and demigod, although both have God in it, it must not be compared. The strength of the god of ninja Senju Hashirama is the sky of that era, and every ninja has lived under the nightmare of Senju Hashirama. Moreover, Senju Hashirama not only had the previous powers but also received the Rinnegan that Madara gave. Not to mention that the mere Salamander Hanzo, even the other 4 Kages united, they might not be enough to fight Senju Hashirama alone. It's so desperate. This is because Akaban's Rinnegan has not been exposed very much. Although he has used it, it is basically indistinguishable from a long distance, and the use of Chibaku Tensei can be attributed to the power of Senju Hashirama alone. In this way, only a few people knew that Konoha had 2 pairs of Rinnegan, but as long as the village leaders knew it, that was enough. Many ninjas have already retreated. Akaban and Danzo went back to preside over the post-war work. He can't return to Konoha immediately. There are 2 big guys in the demonic statue of the outer path. If you still don't pay, you need to discuss with teacher one step further. After the resurrection of Senju Hashirama, this world can be stable for decades. After all, no one likes to provoke a human-shaped nuclear bomb, and Akaban also admires Madara in his heart. Not to mention Madara's behavior, but his goal is indeed world peace, and he has been working hard for it, but the direction was wrong from the beginning. Before dying, this outer path, samsara of heavenly life technique reincarnation was deadly. Senju Hashirama has a sage body, and there is no problem in controlling Rinnegan, and his character is gentle and kind. Everyone will not be afraid of Senju Hashirama like Madara. This is what the Konoha's ninjas thought. As far as the outer village ninja is concerned, whether or not there is Rinnegan in Senju Hashirama, they are terribly scared. Logically speaking, it was supposed to be part of the benefit distribution after the war, but in fact, everyone didn't dare to complain at all. There were two people sitting on the top, one was Senju Hashirama and the other one was Uzumaki Maito. Anyone is God. Even if Senju Hashirama said that he wanted to unify Ninja World and asked who was in and who was against, few dared to jump up and poke him in the nose immediately. However, fortunately, today's speech by Senju Hashirama did not mention the distribution of benefits, but only briefly mentioned some of Konoha's policies, such as not invading other countries, restoring people's livelihood, maintaining peace, and so on. In another tent, Akaban and Danza sat face to face. Danza's expression at this time was very rich, tangled, regretful, and helpless. He gulped back several times when he wanted to say anything, and finally sighed, "Akaban, you disappoint me. Teacher, I'm not going to be Hokage, and it's not entirely a bad thing. At least the first Hokage-sama comes back, and the third Hokage you hate will also step down, right?" Akaban lowered his voice and said with a strange smile. "This is..." Danza was taken aback for a moment. "It's such a reason." "Ha ha ha ha, teacher, these are not important. I have a big plan. If it succeeds, we can communicate in dreams anytime, anywhere, and play dream games at any time." Akaban leaned over and changed the subject immediately. Danza is Akaban teacher, how can he not know this kid's thoughts? But when he tells him this, it is either to attract attention or to ask for something. Right now, it's probably both. The benefits have been said, it's time to butt, right? He motioned Akaban to continue. But it needs a relatively large chakra to maintain. Look at those two tail beasts. Akaban smiled. The meaning is self-evident. F% hashat. So you want me to take the blame? Danza cursed inside his belly. But he still had a cold face outside and raised his eyebrows. This kid painted himself like that in the comics, afraid that he would do it in his heart. Leaving the tail beast is beneficial and harmless to Konoha. Danza is very supportive, but the problem is, Akaba, we can't be the master now. Hidden Mist Village and Hidden Cloud Village have to tell the Lord First Kid what they do to the Uzumaki clan. In addition, Hidden Sand Village is too weak now. Without us protecting their tailed beast, they would be caught with their front feet. Obviously, he wanted to detain the tail beast, but Akaban was able to speak so arrogantly and righteously, as if he was really considering helping protect the tail for the Hidden Sand Village. Danza was originally annoyed that this kid had given great credit for nothing, but now he is not worried anymore. He became like this, no matter how bad he was. What he deserves will be his in the future. As for the position of Hokage, nothing, it's nothing, anyway. The first Hokage will definitely make Konoha more prosperous and strong. For Konoha, the resurrection of the first Hokage is absolutely profitable and harmless. The only pity is his own disciples. He was a little sorry, but it didn't stop there. The incident had already happened, and it was useless to talk about it. As for the tail beast, he had no plans to return it to the two villages. Swallowing the meat and giving it back is not Danza's style at all. Before Danza was thinking about how to convince Senju Hashirama, but now he has a way to persuade Senju Hashirama. With a choice, Danza left immediately. Akaban rested for a while and separated 8 wooden clones. Since he had a wooden clone, he has never used shadow clone again. Unlike the shadow clones who have the same personality as him, the wooden clones work hard, and everything he explains is always done immediately. The comic of Naruto doesn't have much content, just taking advantage of the moment when Madara is dead and the war is about to end. He uses this book to mark the rest. For this purpose, he intends to update all remaining chapters in one go. Madara has watched the anime, but never watched the ending. Akaban plans to burn a copy for him. As for using the impure world reincarnation on him, forget it. Madara has the ability to break free from impure world reincarnation, although he can use Totsuka no Tsurugi seal, but why do you want to do something so troublesome for yourself without getting into trouble? Wait until the next day. All post-war matters, including the distribution of benefits, have been settled. Under Danza's repeated requests, Hidden Mist and Hidden Sand agreed to temporarily let Konoha keep the tailed beast, while Hidden Cloud Village paid the painful price of Ryo and special minerals. As for Hidden Rain Village, they dare not think about the upgrading of the 5 major villages. At the beginning, Hanzo participated in that extermination plan to balance Konoha's strength, and at the same time, for the purpose of making money. Now after the war is settled, all the villages related to that matter cannot escape. Everyone is helpless. Uchiha Madara's dying hand pitted all the ninja villages except Konoha. If they had known that Senju Hashirama would come alive, and who would seek justice for the Uzumaki clan, they wouldn't do it. Thinking of this, everyone could not help cursing Danza secretly. If it weren't for him, Senju Hashirama wouldn't know about the land of Uzumaki destruction at that moment, and Uzumaki Maito didn't have so many bad thoughts and didn't care about the tail beast. Only this one. The darkness of Ninja World is the darkness of Ninja World. Just after Madara died, they will abandon one's benefactor after achieving one's goal, and there is also a critical strike. Nothing gives them room to resist. As a result, Akaban happily got 2 tail beasts. Of course. There is also a clause in the agreement that Konoha shall not use the tail beast to resurrect the 10 tails. If this is done, the other villages will unite to fight Konoha. This is a paper treaty. Everyone knows that Konoha now has 3 great gods. With these stinky fish and shrimps, they can't make up a piece of it enough to be beaten by one person. Saying this is just to remind Senju Hashirama to be careful of the kid in the house. Senju Uma didn't know Akaban and was a little worried before returning, but when Uzumaki Maito showed him the pile of comic books, he forgot about these things in an instant. Until the evening. He saw the scene where the 3rd Hokage died in battle, and he couldn't help but say to Uzumaki Maito with emotion, "The will of fire." Well said, our Konoha ninjas are all good. People who know the will of fire is definitely not someone who will be a conspirator. Yes. Uzumaki Maito nodded gently. If he is really a conspirator, why bother to convene Hashirama and let him take all the credit? Akaban must be the next generation Hokage, enough to rule Konoha. What happened is enough to prove that Akaban has no intention of conspiracy. You tell me what happened these days. I am very interested in this child named Kurama Akaban. Senju Hashirama said very seriously. Akaban is a genius. With such strength at a young age, he is even more aware of the power of money and is simply a sage in the world. How could such a person be a conspirator? Uzumaki Maito sat down and began to tell him what happened in the past. From the comic to the rest of the day, everything was told in every detail. When Senju Hashirama heard Tsunade and Ikeban's vague relationship, he almost left the camp in the middle of the night to talk to Ikeban. When talking about the Uzumaki family, he sighed heavily. The tragedy of the Uzumaki clan was something that Senju Hashirama had never expected. In a sense, it changed Senju Hashirama's perception of his peaceful path. If the previous one was correct, why did the Uzumaki clan get to this point? If he lives, peace will exist. Once dead, then peace will go away and cease to exist. Madara mentioned eternal life to achieve eternal peace, but such things as eternal life. Senju Hashirama is as tired as Uzumaki Maito. Immortality is not a good thing. It seems that there is no price, but in fact, the price is often hidden in fate. The more you get, the more you lose. In the secret basement of the camp, Ikeban sealed the demonic statue of the outer path here, allowing Uzumaki Maito to use sealing jutsu to temporarily isolate the inside and outside to prevent outsiders from being affected. He himself sat in the cave, observing the status of the demonic statue of the outer path. Boy, the 1 tail and 6 tails are ours for the time being, but you don't want the whole 10 tails to come out, otherwise we won't be able to pass the first Hokage summer. Danza walked in from the outside, his face was not looking good. He had been used to carrying the blame for a long time, and it was better to carry the pot for the disciple than to cut the money back for Sarutobi. Moreover, the tail beast was in the hands of Konoha, and there was no reason to hand it back. Of course. If he doesn't interfere, I'm afraid that they will return the next day with Hashirama's character. Teacher, of course, I know this. I know the harm of the 10 tails better than you. Ikeban answered without hesitation. 10 tails is Zatsuki Kaguya, the ancestor of chakra. Not to mention, the ability is so perverted that it makes people speechless. He doesn't want to face such a scary old woman, especially when he doesn't have the main character halo. That's the best. Danza sighed softly. Ikeban had a lot of thoughts and was strong. He couldn't manage him anymore. He could only warn about these things. Fortunately, now that there are first Hokage, there is no need to worry about this kid letting himself go. But this is something to be proud of. Of the 3 disciples of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Orochimaru and Tsunade are outstanding, and Jiraiya also has extraordinary potential, but his 3 disciples are also not bad, although there is one that is a little worse, but also extremely good. What can he ask for? No one is perfect. His 3 disciples have achieved this, and they have surpassed Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Danza is quite proud of this. Anyway, his requirements are not high, as long as he can complete the current task, he is quite satisfied. By the way, about Tsunade, do you have any plans for her? Danza sat down and said something seemingly inadvertently. Ha! Ikeban was a little puzzled. What happened to Tsunade? The medical ninja should stay behind so that there would be no life-threatening. Besides, the ordinary wounds can only be treated by themselves. Facing the demonic statue of the outer path that day, his mind was full of terminal server matters, and his teacher suddenly asked him about Tsunade, but he couldn't react to it for a while. But soon, he understood what Danza meant. Senju Hashirama came alive and got the granddaughter himself, so he had to explain. Ikeban is really a bit stressed. Although Senju Hashirama can't hate himself because of what Madara said to himself, seeing such things as his parents, it is the first time in his previous life and this life. This Madara is really not an ordinary resentment. He secretly complained. It was not until the next day that Akaban completed all the remaining comics and sent it to Izumi Yamano for him to print, and the issue of the distribution of benefits after the war was completely settled. Hidden Rain Village. These small villages can get a slightly more mission share, so that they can have natural resources to cultivate their ninja. Of course, not all of these mission shares belong to Hidden Sand Village. Many of them are from the rest of Four Great Ninja Village. It's just that the Sand Village took the most part, and the share of missions originally promised to Konoha was reduced to 1/3. This is the style of Senju Hashirama. Things like this can't even be stopped by Senju Tobirama. Of course, the apprentice Danza will not dare to object to his decision, and can only silently agree to Hashirama's proposal. Although Hidden Sand Village was miserable, they were helped by some money and resources and could be quickly rebuilt after the war. The next generation Kazekage can only be selected from Kyo and Ibizo. Kyo didn't want to be elected, she wanted to save her son even more. However, in this generation, she is the most prestigious and capable. In these respects, even Ibizo can't match her. He is a bit like Danza in Sand Village. He has always done dirty work behind the scenes. Not many people understand how much credit he has done. In the end, except for the one-tailed and six-tailed questions, everyone was happy. Hidden Sand Village and Hidden Mist Village couldn't do anything about their tailed beast. The former was basically scrapped by Madara, and the latter had made great efforts in the genocide of the land of Uzumaki. After the war distribution, Akaban did not hesitate and flew directly back to the village. His teacher reminded him to stay and have a good relationship with the people, mainly the big guy. But in fact, Akaban found himself thinking too much. Senju Hashirama didn't have time to talk to him. This guy is gambling with Tsunade very happily. His gambling skills are not very good. The probability of losing on the other side is not small, but today he has won for a day. Across all the way, Akaban could hear their joyful laughter. What kind of ability to bully Tsunade? He was annoyed. So, he went up to fight with Senju Hashirama and easily defeated Hashirama by relying on the Thunder Devil Fruit to increase his perception and observation ability. After 20 gambling, Senju Hashirama quit gambling. Uzumaki Mito could see Akaban's tricks, but she would not be so stupid to say it. She has always disapproved of things like gambling, otherwise, she would not control Tsunade so strictly. Seeing the Hashirama deflated, she was quite happy. Everyone is responsible for promoting positive energy. Hashirama was depressed and stopped mentioning gambling. Tsunade was happy on her side although she lost the gambling. Akaban won it all back and made some money between hands. But Hashirama quickly stopped caring. It's not shameful to lose to his own junior, and seeing Tsunade happy like this makes him really happy. Thinking from this perspective, it's nice to be alive. He was a little emotional. But Tsunade is only 14 or 15 years old, so don't think about getting married. He has to watch this stinky boy again if he wants to turn upright. At least on Senju Hashirama's side, Akaban can't make it easy. Akaban was not too worried about these things. He doesn't want to step into the tomb of marriage prematurely. The relationship with Tsunade is good at present. He doesn't want any changes in a short time, and he is still a child. Hashirama chatted with him for a while, then picked up the comic and continued reading. He has almost finished reading it. There are many plots in the middle that move him very much, and some of Naruto's words also deeply say that peace is very difficult in his heart, but because of this, he has to go on unswervingly. After reading a few pages, he saw a scene where the second and fourth Hokage used the flying thunder god at the same time, and he suddenly reacted and said, "Akaban, I heard that you have mastered the flying thunder god jutsu." "Yes." "Then let's not wait for the big troops, let's go back to the village quickly, I'm already impatient to see what the new village looks like." Hashirama was extremely excited. He wanted to see how Konoha was different from the comics. "No problem." Akaban was very happy. He wanted to leave before, but because of Senju Hashirama's certain attitude that he didn't dare to set off without permission, it just hit it off. "Let's go." Senju Hashirama patted Akaban urging on his shoulder. Akaban did not hesitate, and directly used Flying Thunder God Jutsu and took him away back to Konoha. Originally, with his chakra reserve, it's not a problem to travel back to the Konoha, but it's troublesome to replenish the lost chakra, so Akaban uses Senju Hashirama's chakra. In the camp, Uzumaki Maito and Tsunade were full of question marks. These two people just left. When men are like this. Back at the Hokage building, someone soon found them. After all, this is Konoha's core location, and there are many guards set up. However, when they saw Akaban and Senju Hashirama standing together, they couldn't believe it. The first Hokage. First Hokage Sama. Isn't it a transformation jutsu? It didn't take long for several Hokage guards to arrive, and they were waiting in a tight line. They didn't dare to approach Akaban and Hashirama. Soon they discovered that this Senju Hashirama was different from what they knew. He has Rinnegan. Be careful, he may be Madara. Maybe Akaban was also controlled by Madara. The head of the Hokage guard had a heavy tone. "Ha ha ha, everyone is still alive, I'm back again." Hashirama laughed. In his eyes, these are all younger generations and children. Actions like these are not offensive, they are just legitimate crisis protection, and it didn't take long for the third Hokage to arrive. A long time ago, the third Hokage had been with the first Hokage for a while, so although other people could not recognize whether he was genuine, but he could recognize him. When he saw him, he respectfully saluted, "I have seen the first Hokage Sama." Now, no one has any more doubts. Soon, everyone paid respect one after another, and many people in the village also knew the news of the first Hokage resurrection, and excitedly blocked Hokage building. Senju Hashirama left a wooden clone, and he left the building using Earth style and joined Akaban on the mountain behind Hokage building. From here, you can see the Hokage Rock and Konoha below. It's great, Konoha is bigger and more energetic than before. Senju Hashirama couldn't help sighing. It has always been his dream to make the villagers prosperous, and it seems that everything has come true. The third Hokage Sama and teacher Danza managed the village very well. Akaban nodded. "Oh Tilda, you are a disciple of Danza, Maito has said that, but I didn't expect Danza to nurture a ninja like you, and I always thought he was a little useless." Senju Hashirama was very emotional. Danza's character and ability flaws, he and Tobirama were very clear about it, and because of this, they didn't consider giving Konoha to Danza, who was in the hands of learning everything. As a result, he didn't expect Danza to teach such a disciple. Akaban didn't know how to answer it. Senju Hashirama didn't expect him to answer, so Akaban chatted with him without a word. His thoughts were more immersed in the handling of the demonic statue of the outer path. There was no need for Akaban to show up with Senju Hashirama around. But Hashirama still asked Akaban, and he found that Konoha's changes were all related to Akaban. Lettering on Hokage Rock. comic shop, hot pot restaurant, worm restaurant. At the end of the day tour, Akaban was still asked to talk about these things, so Hashirama felt a bit of emotion. By the next day, the vanguard had returned to Konoha. Akaban's last comic is updated. This volume contains more than 30 chapters. For Akaban, these contents are actually not important. Uchiha Madara is defeated and Black Zetsu is sealed. Akaban can live comfortably without worrying about anything. Even if the one on the moon comes down, with his current strength, there is no need to be afraid. The villagers were very moved after reading the comics. Most of them have not been able to witness how Madara died with their own eyes, but only learned part of the process from a few words, but the comics gave them new imagination. As for Black Zetsu's betrayal and Otsutsuki Kaguya, as a bystander, everyone does not think this paragraph is worthy of emotion. The best reader for this passage should be Madara. Unfortunately, Madara is dead. When Akaban thought of this, he couldn't help feeling a little bit. He really didn't expect that Madara would choose to die like that, and the words before Madara's death made him quite moved. Knowing Infinite Tsukuyomi's conspiracy, everything Madara insists on is extremely ridiculous in his own eyes. Such a proud person was almost hacked to death. What an irony! As for Otsutsuki Kaguya, she is farther away from everyone. Most of the people who know her have passed away. Only the old sage toad from Mount Myoboku is still in stock. But now, the old toad doesn't dare to dream anymore. Because every time he dreamed of Akaban. Yes. After many years, he finally dreamed of Kurama Akaban's figure, but what he dreamed of was a pair of Rinnegan, a world of thunder, and a phantom panic world behind him. Either way, it is a very terrifying power, enough to destroy Mount Myoboku, but it is completely gathered in this guy, and these powers are visible. But the good news is not without it. At least Madara is dead, Black Zetsu is sealed, Otsutsuki Kaguya is unlikely to be reborn, and in Konoha, there is Senju Hashirama, which can suppress Kurama Akaban from the identity. For the time being, the world is at peace. Thus, the big toad sage realized something. It's better for some people not to dream about it. If they don't dream that, they can live for decades or hundreds of years, but if they dream about it and see what's going to happen, he can't say how long it will be for him to live. Akaban didn't know the situation there. Even if he knows it, it doesn't matter. Although the big toad sage is powerful, he is already old and weak and has no capital to move. Lying on a chair and continuing to live is his only choice. Besides, he didn't do anything harmful to the world but saved the world. If he is targeted, even Senju Hashirama will stand on his side. I am a great person. His life now is very simple. He sleeps and draws one piece every day, and then he can concentrate on tinkering with the demonic statue of the outer path and studying the plan to transform the demonic statue of the outer path into a perpetual terminal server. Of course. Which will inevitably be disturbed by Tsunade and Jiraiya. The village has changed a lot. Part of the reason was that Senju Hashirama was alive and the war was over. Konoha was naturally prosperous, and even the entrusted tasks increased a lot. After nearly a month, Akaban finally developed this thing. Originally, with the help of Orochimaru, it should be able to greatly reduce the process, but the Orochimaru has recently become fascinated by the body of the first Hokage, and every once in a while, he has to visit the Senju clan to ask the first Hokage to let him study it. For this reason, the third Hokage apologized in front of Senju Hashirama. It is worth mentioning that the third Hokage did not lose his Hokage position as Akaban thought. The resurrection of Senju Hashirama was true, but for the time being, he didn't seem to plan to intervene in the affairs of the village. Everything was orderly and proceeded as usual. It's just that there is an overlord, and the third Hokage has to report on his work from time to time. As a result, Akaban could only study and figure out for himself. Now that he has a sure plan, he pondered for a while and began to invest in chakra in an orderly manner. 2 tails, 3 tails, 4 tails. Put them into the demonic statue of the outer path one by one, and soon the demonic statue of the outer path aura gradually became stronger. When all the chakras of the tail beasts are injected, the violent aura of the 10 tails quickly recovered but was soon suppressed by the sealing technique arranged in advance, and Akaban arranged the next summoning technique. In the next second, a dream to purr appeared from the technique. Akaban, This time it was not his little dream to purr. The little guy was much stronger than when he was first summoned by him, but it was far from enough to host a big dream formation. He is the elder of the Dream to Purr family. Elder, it is the 10-tailed. I will connect summoning jutsu to him. The Dream to Purr family can go to 10-tailed at any time. At the same time, I set up another genjutsu to connect the barrier. Akaban began to explain what he was going to do. Simply put, the virtual network he created is based on the genjutsu world, and now 10 Tails has solidified a genjutsu world that needs chakra to run. This world is blank. Only the spiritual body of the surrounding ninja and only the spiritual body in the genjutsu world can log into the virtual network. As for the Dream to Purr family, their task is to add content to the world of genjutsu, infer what Akaban needs and maintain the operation of the illusion. In short, they are programmers. Then, after some guidance, Akaban talked to the elder about his ideas and future plans. The elder often took a long time to understand some meanings, and many of them couldn't understand it. This is the contradiction between planning and programmers. Although Akaban has never worked as a planner or programmer, he still deeply understands this generation gap at this moment, but there is no way, unless he is willing to spend his energy to do it, he still has to teach the programmer. After tirelessly giving pointers, the elder Dream to Purr finally understood. After that, Akaban especially left a clone here, and he went to contact the people in the village to test the network situation, until 10 days later. Throughout the village, many ninjas who had received first-hand notification from Akaban to enter the dreamland began to dream. Soon, everyone went to sleep. In a dream, 5 options appear in sight. Friends connection, games, ninja information, gossip forum, recharge. In the game, Ninja World is very eye-catching. Online games. This is a new era in ninja. Akaban has self-confidence and can make everyone fall in love with the network quickly, and fall in love with the dream network where everyone can communicate and interact with each other. As for whether it will cause distortion to the younger generations, who knows? Anyway, Akaban didn't care, and he'll talk about things later. At worst, before he dies, he will pull Senju Hashirama out using the outer path, Samsara of heavenly life technique. Konoha may be able to support several decades again. Now is my time. That's it for this part, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And also tell me in the comment section down below if you have any recommendation. Thanks for watching.